This episode is not appropriate for children. It contains themes of horror, violence, death, paranoia, discrimination, coarse language, and fire. Specific warnings and their timestamps can be found at the end of the description. If you found this, consider it a curse. For those around you, however, it'll hopefully be a blessing. This place, it's haunted by something sinister. What it is, I don't exactly know, and who I am, well, that's not important. By the time you found this, I am undoubtedly dead. But I've used what may be my last moments to make a deal with something I cannot comprehend. A deal which ended in the creation of this recorder. It is my understanding that whatever the terror that haunts this place is, it appears only periodically. Once every generation, it emerges from whatever dark pit it inhabits to feed on the fear and panic of the people. And for this, I must believe it has a weakness. Were it to stay here terrorizing us, we may be able to learn to stop it, but showing up for a fleeting few days every generation, it's always an unexpected, a new threat preying on the unsuspecting and ignorant. That's why I've created this recorder. In the span of a few days, one cannot alone learn how to stop it, but if we work together through the barrier of time, the key to setting ourselves free may not be so far out of reach. This will connect you to another point in time. When exactly, I do not know. What I do know is that this will only be found by someone who's in danger. If you found this, I'm sorry. May whoever's on the other side have clues that can help you survive what you're about to endure.
So, I don't know if this is going to work. I mean, I didn't know these things were still around. The only cassettes we've got are the old Icehouse ones my granddad keeps in his ute, but the message I found on here said I was in danger, and I don't know, maybe it's right. I mean, when I found it, I thought this whole thing was just some stupid prank, but these last few weeks, I've kind of felt like, God, I'm just overthinking things. Like, things have sucked so hard lately, and I think maybe I'm just way overthinking things, and Granddad doesn't think I'm sleeping properly, and I mean, he's not wrong. It's just, I keep lying in bed at night and thinking that they hate me, and I can hear them arguing on the other side of the wall, and I just know it's about me. So, look, I mean, I found this thing by the bins at the back of the store, and this whole thing's probably just some asshole who threw out their old tape recorder and left that message to freak out whatever idiot decided to listen to it, right? I'm Ellie, by the way, if someone is actually there. Ellie Stanton. I live in Derbon, though if you've got this, then you probably do too. Do you hate it here as much as I do? Probably not. I didn't think it would be so different after. I thought people were cooler about this stuff now, but everyone keeps looking at me like I'm this whole different person, like I changed and suddenly this isn't my home anymore, and like they'd rather I'd stayed at uni and never come back. Although if you're from the past, then I guess you might not be cool about it either. Or maybe you're the one in the future and 2015 was like 100 years ago or something. I'm gay, by the way. That's why it sucks here. And that's why if you are from the past, I'm really hoping you're cool about it. It'd really suck if this was real and I was stuck saving Derbon with some raging homophobe. So I'm sitting at the back of my granddad's property right now. It's the Stanton place, just off the edge of town. If you are real and you know where that is, and it's just there's no one around right now except the horses, and I just keep thinking maybe if I pretend this is real for a while, then. And I don't know, right now I'd really like it if you were real, or maybe I wouldn't. Which one's worse, do you think? Thinking you're being followed, but really you're hallucinating the whole thing in your head, so it turns out that maybe you're just going off the deep end, or actually being followed by some eternal terror? I mean, I don't know for sure. And like I said, things have pretty much sucked lately, and also... I found this thing out by the bins, and they were the ones I always thought were haunted when I was a kid, and my dad would make me do the trash run after close after it got dark, and there was this cat from down the street that always used to hide under it and hiss like crazy. And so there's a really good chance I'm making this whole thing up because 8-year-old me was a scaredy cat, and that I've been talking to myself this entire time. But if I'm not, then I think something's following me. And I think it might have something to do with that eternal terror the recording on this thing said was pretty much impossible to kill. So that's great. I haven't seen anything, and it's flat as hell out here, which, again, if this is real, you'd know that. But my point is, if something was following me, then I'd definitely be able to see it. It's not like it could really hide anywhere, and it's the start of summer, so it's not even like I'm out after dark that much. The sun's not going down till like 8 o'clock. It's just every time I go out, it feels like there's something. There's part of me that thinks it's just the whole butch lesbian thing, like the buzzed hair and the fact that I'm a 5'5", 20-year-old walking around town in my granddad's old farm clothes means that, pretty much everyone's staring at me all the time. And I think Andrea down at the cafe thinks my piercings are satanic. Like, I swear she does that Catholic cross thing every time I leave the store. But if it's not just that, if you are real, if when I finish this recording, some actual person from the past or the future, I guess, is going to pick this up and listen to it, be careful, please. Because I think the warning on this thing is right. I think there's something out there.
Well, I don't really know what any of this is about. Hey, Ellie, can I call you Elle? To be honest, Elle, this whole thing has thrown me for a loop. That first message freaked me out, and then well, I mean, it's all a bit unexpected. Something in me can't help but believe it, though. I don't normally go in for this hokey-pokey sort of business, but it just feels right in my gut, 2015, hey? Can't even imagine probably whizzing about in flying cars and stuff like that. And love, I'm sure your situation's not all that bad. Derbon's a good town. Lots of honest folk here. We're willing to take in all sorts. There's that fellow who works down at the library. I think he's from New Zealand. Yeah, well, look, I don't know what his situation is, but he's come into town and settled in. Doesn't talk much, but we're willing to take him on. And I'm sure you're the same. Sounds like you've been off at uni and you've forgotten what the Derbon spirit's all about. A chat to the blokes at council and they'll set you straight. I guess all those old coppers would be long dead for you, but... Did I introduce myself? I can't really remember. Mark Hammond. I work at the local store where we found this thing. I was clearing away some old stock and I found it in an old wet box out the back. Thought it was going to be dead as a doornail, but seems like it's just like new. Thing almost started playing by itself, really. Curse and survival, all this stuff about darkness. What are we supposed to think about that, hey, El? Say hi to your granddad for me. He's a good mate. Good to hear Stanton's still going strong in your future times. Yeah. I guess it could. Well, there was this thing, the other night. On Wednesdays, I've got the close. Nothing too crazy, but I do get home to the girls a little bit later than I'd like. And I was just finishing up my sweeping, and I saw this shifty fella moving about across the road. And it didn't bother me at the time, but all this tape recorder business had me kind of second-guessing myself. It seemed a bit unnatural, blending into the dark a bit too much and moving kind of weirdly. It seemed like he was rustling through the bins there, and I came out to check it out, and he ran off. It was almost like he was floating or something. It felt like a big whoosh. I stood there for about a minute, and then as I was about to go inside, bam! Like the whole bin caught up on fire. It was like something from another world. They were shooting up something like 7 or 8 feet. I couldn't prove it, but it feels like that guy had something to do with it. Leaving a firework in there or something. The bin's pretty much written off, and the fire lit up the sign in front of the library. It's burned beyond recognition. Welcome to Derbon, it said. Now it just says, Weeb on. Something about that doesn't sit right with me. The coppers are checking it out, but they haven't found any evidence of somebody being at the bins that night. Baz was a bit unsure of me for a sec, but he knows I'm not that sort. I wonder if this has anything to do with what we're, all right. No, well, I guess I'll just leave you to it. Keep your chin up, Elle. Oh, you said something about Andrea. How is she? Is her sister Nicole still in town? I know them from my time. And they're... All right, I guess I'll be hearing from you.
Wow. Okay, I really didn't think that would work. So, hi Mark, I guess. Mark Hammond. I feel like Grandad has mentioned your name before. He's always going on about the old Derbon crew. What year are you from? I don't think you said. It's crazy that I'm talking to someone from the past. It feels like I'm stuck in some episode of Doctor Who or Round the Twist, and I'm just waiting for life to go back to normal. Except that normal sucks right now too. And look, I appreciate the Derbon Spirit Talk, and Glenn from New Zealand is still working at the library and is actually one of the people that's been kind of cool about this whole thing, but I guess I'm just sick of people telling me that I went away and forgot the Derbon Spirit when I'm pretty sure it's that I came back and the Derbon Spirit decided it didn't want me anymore. So, is it weird that I'm finding this whole tape recorder thing kind of nice? Just being able to talk to someone who doesn't know me, who doesn't have all these expectations and ideas of who I was before and just gets to meet me now? Probably is weird, especially considering that if this worked, then the eternal terror is real too. And I really don't know if I'm up for that save the world level of responsibility yet. Also, I watched Wolf Creek at a sleepover when I was 14 and it scarred me for life. So someone following me and dark shadowy figures that burn bins and run so fast they look like they're floating in a small town already feels like too much. Although, I guess you wouldn't have seen that one. Is Texas Chainsaw Massacre out for you yet? It's like the Australian version of that, I guess, but also not really. Maybe scared of heading out bush for ages, though, and still freaked out by the billabong at night. Almost drowned there when I was a kid, you know? Hated swimming after that. Nicole's still round. That was what you asked, right? It's complicated, though. She had this... I don't know. She had this breakdown sometime in the late 80s, I think. No one around town really wants to talk about it, but I just know that something bad happened, and I'm pretty sure her mental health just... She lives with Andrea now, and she's fine. I mean, it all happened before I was born, but Grandad said she used to be different. I wouldn't really know. Makes the best chocolate croissants I've ever tasted, though. I always get one when I go into the cafe because it makes Andrea smile before she shoos away the demons or whatever. I should probably mention I got a letter today, like an actual honest-to-God letter. So I guess that might not be weird for you. It's weird for 2015. We don't have those flying cars you were talking about, but we do have our mobile phones with texts and emails and Facebook and Twitter. So people don't really do letters unless they're old or it's a bill. And this one, it was blank. Had my name on it, handwritten, no return address, no stamp, and nothing in the letter except for a blank piece of paper. If there was no stamp and no return address, then I don't think it could have come through the post, which means that someone walked to my house, to my mailbox and put a letter in it themselves, which I hate. I tried all the secret code things, UV light, hold it over a candle. With all I did was accidentally burn the paper. And I just keep thinking about the fire you saw and words disappearing. They fixed the sign up now, obviously, but those letters have never looked quite right. I went to look at it after I got your recording and it felt wrong. I asked Glenn about it and he said they'd asked to change it at the time, but it was historical or something and the council wouldn't let them, so they just had to paint over the fire damage. I guess you might already know that bit, or it's still about to happen. Should I be telling you things that haven't happened for you yet? Are we going to make a butterfly effect thing? I'm glad you're here, Mark, with all the things that are happening. I'm glad I've got someone who's part of this with me. Yeah, you can call me Elle. It's really only my granddad who does, but I figure if we're going to be saving Derbon together, then you've probably earned the right.
Elle, you said that is she okay? I don't want to mess with whatever's here, but Nicole. 1985, Elle. That's when I'm from. Probably seems like ages ago for you, and I seem ancient. I must be 64. Can't even imagine. But if your grandpa remembers me, then I guess I mustn't be there anymore. Maybe I don't know. Probably not worth worrying about. Remember that you've got to keep it simple for me, all right? The butterfly effect and twisting around or whatever. I can hardly keep up with what the kids are saying now, let alone 30 years from now. I know about Doctor Who, though. I got a mate who watches it on the BBC. Not really my cup of tea. Texas Chainsaw Massacre either. The missus and I like to watch Prisoner after the kids are gone to bed. That's about it. Don't have all the time in the world for telly. I guess I've got to share my story. I know you want to get to know each other, but it's hard with 30 years between us. But then, every time I start to learn something about you, we've got to talk about this terror thing. I tried to bring it up with my missus the other night, but she seemed to switch off. It was like she wasn't really listening at all. Not like her. She loves a good natter. I have to get her out of the house whenever she's got the ladies round for tea, but what do they even talk about for all that time? Anyway, a couple of nights ago, there was this big event out at your granddad's paddock. A whole bunch of the local families were there with some beers and food and stuff. Fun old shindig for the family. Pretty big deal. Everybody was chatting and laughing. Then, as the sun went down, Aaron said that we should start a bonfire. And so almost out of nowhere, all this wood comes out and they're lighting up a fire. Another beer later and there's this massive bonfire, even taller than me. And Baz starts singing some songs with his guitars and everyone's singing the lyrics they know. It was really nice. I work so much that I don't get to spend as much time as I'd like with the family. I want them to know that I'm there for them and that this is their community. Derbon's like one big family. And that's what I've been trying to tell you, Elle. The people in Derbon, they're not just your neighbours. They're like your family. And when you've been away, people change, but I know that you're still a part of the town. And you were saying, like, you've changed too. And now that you're different, you've just got to find a new way with your family. Yeah? Well, anyway, I guess that's not that important. The bonfire was raging and everyone was singing. And my youngest had fallen asleep and I was holding her. And I looked into the fire and I saw something. It was like 2 eyes were looking at me. And then there was this big gust of wind and all the smoke blew into my face. And I turned my face away, but in that second I could have sworn I saw a man in the flames. Like he was actually made of the fire. And he was reaching out to touch my kid. Nobody else saw anything. I thought that I was crazy, but then I thought what we've been talking about, and it just seemed right. The night continued, and I just forgot about it. It probably had one too many. Anyway, the next day I was chatting to my missus just before we went to sleep, and she mentioned that my little one told her about a nightmare about a man of fire reaching out to grab her. I don't know what this means, but we need to sort it out. Stay safe, Elle.
You've been listening to Best Left Forgotten. You can find and follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Best Left Podcast and on our Best Left Forgotten Facebook page where we post updates, info and additional content. Music by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Cover art by Caddy Wampus, who can be found on Fiverr. Thanks to Jess Wolfendale, our editor, Miriam Feats, our social media manager, and Nathan Quadro, our GM and producer. If you enjoyed our podcast today, please leave a review and tell your friends.